I want to get into a topic that, no matter how I describe it, it seems to make everyone angry. And I'm not sure why this has become the third rail of comic conversation, but for me it has. And that's the topic of women writers in comics, which to me is a pretty benign topic, pretty straightforward, but it turns out it's anything but. Hey, everybody, this is Perch. I admit, I'm being honest here that I don't understand why this topic gets people upset. And when I say upset, I mean I present my case, and I this is the one area where I found equally both, quote unquote sides get angry and start yelling at me. And I can almost always tell when somebody's going to be a good, reasonable person that I could talk to for a long time. If they're like, hey, that's some interesting, they don't yell. It's the people who don't yell. But this I've made these comments, and it spawned. I know it spawned a guy putting me on a blockbot list. I know at least one creator blocked me over it. I know that it spawned some videos from I want to say the yellow flash, yellowfish. I don't know. Yellow flash. I may be wrong though. In fact, I probably am wrong about that. But there's been a couple videos made about this particular topic, and I've always found it a little bit amusing that both sides agree together enough to agree that I'm wrong. But here's the basic premise. The statement goes out like this, and that's, you know, someone says, Marvel and DC are hiring, usually it's women and minority writers, specific women and minority writers, and they have like a quota inside the company. Like it's like, well, we've got to have six women, and we've got to have, three black people and two Asian people and one Mexican and or Latino, and we got to have, and they're kind of working down this list. And then the people at Marvel or DC are kind of randomly going to the, creative phone book, and they're just like, oh, this name sounds, Latin enough, and it's a woman to boot, and perfect. And I guess there's sexuality in there too. LGBTQ, etc. In there, but it's this premise that the comic companies are deliberately kind of using a quota to put together their comics, and that's the premise that's on the table. You don't see this coming from the creatives, from the pro side. They don't talk about this. This is the angry fans, and typically this comes up as a comics are terrible because, and this is one of the big reasons, that there's this quota situation going on. And and then they for whatever reason I get tagged into this, like, what do you think? Or, hey, how does this apply to you? And the simple answer is I don't buy that that's happening. I don't believe that that's happening. I'm very confident that's not happening. And but it's not as straightforward as saying, well, comic publishers never, set out to, hire a woman or hire a gay person or hire a black person or whatever to write their character, because we know that they do from interviews from, Marvel or DC themselves, where they'll say, we really wanted to find a woman writer to write this woman character. We really wanted to find a leading female writer to write Captain Marvel, or we really wanted to find somebody from the LGBT community to write Batwoman, or so on. The publishers have said this, so we know that that's true. That there is hey, we've got this one property, it's got this one, trait or multiple traits to that character, that title. So we want to find somebody who quote unquote knows the character. And this is something that you see in movies, you see in TV, you see in all kinds of entertainment right now. Is there's this belief that you have to have authenticity of the writer to the character in order to. I'm not sure. It's what's said publicly is in order to find a more authentic take, a more accurate take on the character and the kind of the character's dynamics. And the thing that's not said, but I think is a cousin to that, is, and we want to try and fend off criticism from online community who will say, "Oh, you've got a black character, but you don't have a black writer." Racism. That's for which tends to be. There's a group of people who just I think sit at the computer all day long. They like search around for characters. It's like, hey, wait a minute, we just realized Midnighter is gay. Who's writing Midnighter? Oh, he doesn't have a comic right now. Well, put him on the watch list because if there's ever a comic or a story, it better be a gay man writing that story. It feels like there's some people out there certainly trying to do that. But you notice there's a difference between saying, hey, as a comic publisher, we've got Captain Marvel, we want to have a female writer writing Captain Marvel, and Marvel as a whole saying we need to have a quota of female writers. We need to make sure we're bringing in, this and this and this, and let's make sure that, white men are at the bottom of that list, and we got to work this quota. That doesn't happen because there are plenty of white men writing comics, or drawing comics, or doing things in comics. There's plenty of them. I don't know if I've never had the argument, should there be more? Hell, I don't know, and frankly, I don't care. It's are the stories good? Are the white men, black women, gay, whatever it happens to be, are they good writers? Are the stories good? If you had DC Comics announce that 100% of all their writers were going to be gay black women, and then you pick up the comics and they're awesome, they're just like great stories, Superman's doing amazing stuff, the characterization of Batman's like spot on, I'd be like, thank goodness, that perfect DC, change nothing, keep doing this. That would be my take. I don't care. I don't care the gender, race, sexuality of the writer, the creator. If the story is good and they're doing a great job with the character, I'm happy. I'm like, you have succeeded. If it's not good, then my statement is we get a new writer. At no point for me does enter the equation. The problem here is that you've got a woman writing this title. That's the problem. That's never, that doesn't go through my head, and I don't. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't mean anything to me. It's is a story good or bad for me? And actually, well, let me make a little bit more complexity to that. It's like, is the story a good story? I like it. Is the story, I can recognize it's a good story, but I don't like it? Or is it is it terrible? Like are you picking it up and Batman suddenly got a machine gun and mowing people down and for no apparent reason, and you're like, well, this throws all of what Batman's all about out the window. Who's writing this? That's to me a bad story, or just a plot that goes nowhere, or just nonsense. So my statement and what gets me into trouble is I'll say, no, I don't believe the comic publishers are using quotas. No, I don't believe it. In fact, I'm positive it's not. I think it doesn't work that way. What I believe is that the comic publishers and the editors and others are utilizing their network. They're hiring their friends. And I think there's a lot of that goes on where, an editor comes in, they're like, okay, we need to find a good, talented, writer, creative team, whatever for this comic. Let's go find the best people we know. And instead of, true talent searches, instead of, really trying to find great writers, maybe going to all the people who have done comics in the past, going, hey, I had John Byrne sitting around here somewhere. I know he's crazy as all hell, but I wonder what he's up to. I think I'll go, give these jobs to the people I have copy with, or the woman who's 3 apartments down, who's got the corgi that I like, or whatever. That's how I think a lot of the hiring happens. It happens out of network. Now, why do I think that? Again, because the publishers have often told us this, or the editors have told us this. When we've had panels, they would say, well, how did you get to write at Marvel? It's like, well, I knew this writer from, they happened to live near me when I was in New York, and, our pets went to the dog park together, and we got to talking, and we were a big comic fan, and we wanted to give them a shot. When they talk about some of the hiring decisions get made, it's invariably some friend of a friend, or some kind of network situation that goes on. And networking, as I've done videos on in the past, by itself is not bad. It's not a sin to run a network. That's how jobs are given. That's how jobs are made. If you work in any industry, it's who you know. You've heard that phrase. It's not what you know, it's who you know. You've heard that quote. And a lot of people will kind of shake their fist at that, going, "Well, it should be what you know." I mean, like if you're a surgeon, I mean, I'd hope it's what you know as opposed to who you know, but it is who you know. Networking is a thing. It's an important thing. It's how your career tends to move and evolve, and it certainly is true for comics. So I think what does happen is the publishers will say, "Hey, we've got Captain Marvel. Hey, you know what? We should have a woman writing Captain Marvel because there's those crazy people on the internet who will scream at us if we don't have a woman writing Captain Marvel because of patriarchy and sexism. And so, who do we want to get to write Captain Marvel?" And it's like, well, Louise Simonson, is out there. I wonder what she's doing. No, no, no. We don't. Let's not go with Louise Simonson. Let's go with, this woman who lives down the hallway, who says that she loves the comics and the science, and let's have her write, the Captain Marvel. And no, I'm not suggesting that's how Kelly Thompson got her job. The current, who knows when this video will come out? Kelly Thompson is a current writer of Captain Marvel. By the time this video comes out, God knows who will be the current writer of Captain Marvel because it'll be relaunched 4 times between now and then. Anyway, uh, so that's kind of my statement. So, in a nutshell, I don't know why this is so controversial to people. Kind of on one side, I think there's a belief that Marvel is deliberately got this strategy. Like there's a big whiteboard somewhere up in Marvel Studios where they're like, we got to make sure we're slowly firing all the white men and we're replacing them with gay minority women or non-binary people, sure. And that's on its face ridiculous. Although, for the people who complain a lot about the Al Ewings and Mark Waid and Dan Slotts, that would take care of that problem. I'm just saying, it could, you could replace Al Ewing with Eve Ewing, and you don't even have to change the last name on a book. It's there. Fans wouldn't even notice. You just put Ewing on the cover, like Guardians of the Galaxy #2. It just says Ewing there, and people reading along, and you're like, oh, this is pretty good. But oh, wait a minute, it's Eve. I'd replace Eve Ewing with Al Ewing. Just saying. But so on one hand, I think that kind of conspiracy theory is nonsense, and I also think it sounds like a nuance when I say, the publishers, and this is what people they're like, well, you just said that the publishers are deliberately saying they're going to hire a woman to write a woman title. Isn't that quotas? No, that's not quotas. That is, it sounds like a detail, but it's an important detail. That's saying we have a project and it's got this character and we want to have the same, race, ethnicity, gender as that character. That's not a quota. That's matching, and that's what Christopher Priest has talked a lot about. That's what Dwayne McDuffie back in the Milestone days would talk about, kind of his dislike of that practice. But there's a lot of there's I don't think that's a good idea, but I also don't think that's quotas. I think that a good writer is a good writer, as I said before, and I don't think you need to limit yourself by assigning a one trait to a character with the same trait. I think that's a mistake, but I think that's, like I said, it's much different than quotas. On the other side, when I say, hey, but there is a lot of kind of nepotism networking going on, and there is that kind of behavior, that seems to make the creators mad. They don't like to hear that. But again, I'm on all fronts. I'm just repeating what you've said. I'm just repeating what I have heard, not in secret little, meetings at bars at the con, but on panels, in public, in interviews. I mean, Axel Alonso would go up and say, we're looking for a female writer to write America Chavez, and it's great that she's a lesbian, and America Chavez is a lesbian. We wanted somebody who could write the character authentically. Axel Alonso says this in public, in interviews, in right out there. I mean, what do you and he also says, hey, it was great because we've been introduced through a friend of a friend to Gabby Rivera, and so that it all fell into place. Okay, so you've admitted, you've said, here's what we're trying to do with the title. You've said, here's how we met the writer. I mean, I'm just repeating you. That's it. So I don't get what the frustration is here. I definitely get frustration over networking and how it seems to box out people from jobs. I agree. I think that, again, I think it's a bad practice. A full stop. I don't know what else to say about that. It's a bad practice, but there you have it. And on the other end, I think that it's just too easy in my mind, to throw out a big conspiracy theory around quotas and around some, like there's a plot to get rid of all the dudes, and it sounds ridiculous. Like if you write, sometimes if you get really frosted at the mouth over something, and I've noticed this with some videos where you've got a real, like a ranting, outraged style video, and you can see if on the video thumbnail on Twitter, or sorry, on YouTube, hey, there goes a cop. Not for me though. Haha, somebody else's crew today. Anyway, if you've got a video and on the cover you've got like that, the confused face with the emoji with the two hands like screaming, or the person doing the video reviewer is giving one of those kind of looks, and then you've got like three question marks in the title, like Batman married to a woman, question mark, question mark, question mark. It's like, okay, this is going to be somebody ranting around. If you ever turn down the volume and just turn the subtitles up and you just read what's going on in the video, the stuff sounds ridiculous. I'm sorry, but some of the outrage videos, the big conspiracy theories, you sound insane if you actually just read it in print. When you're hearing somebody talk, like you're hearing me talk right now, it kind of washes over you and you kind of lose the context of, if crazy things are being said. But if you just read it in text, you're like, holy cow, this person is insane. That's that's unfortunately the feeling I've gotten all too often from some of the people out there on both fronts. It's like you guys get so angry, you don't make sense anymore. Anyway, that's just me. All right, what do you think? Can somebody tell me why people get so mad? I'd love to know why in the world people get so mad. Are you mad? Are we going to get a bunch of downvotes, or am I going to get a bunch of comments like, this guy doesn't get it? I'd love to hear your comments. If anybody has proof or photos or interviews that there's a big quota plot going on to destroy men in comics, I mean, I'd love to see that as well. I'm just saying there's a lot of problems comics have, and a lot of legit things that people do wrong. We don't need to invent more. Let's let's take care of some of the ones we have, and then we can let some of these other ones in the door. I'm just saying. All right, well, there you go. Hey, like, subscribe, if you don't mind. Subscriptions are awesome. You'll hear more kind of crazy nonsense like this video. Leave a comment below, like I mentioned, and follow me on Twitter at Comic Perch. Thanks for listening.